Hello, what is up, my armadillo army? I want to start off by saying two things. One, this is a response to a video by Clint's Reptiles, about why he doesn't have a problem with spider ball pythons. And don't, just ignore that morph market tab. We'll get to that. So, I want to start off first by saying, one, this is not supposed to be hate or to cancel quote-unquote, Clint's Reptiles. His, the Best Pet series, it's unmatched in terms of, like, a quick synopsis of an animal. It is a very, very good series, and he does generally seem just like a wholesome guy. So don't send him hate. This isn't an attempt to cancel him. Just don't. And also, this video is actually being made in preparation to a video I'm going to make on why the problem isn't just what the libertarians always say of like, oh, it's just crony capitalism, or this isn't capitalism, it's corporatism. No. The problem is capitalism, and it is shown in the reptile hobby, and that video will be coming out soon, so if you want to see that, subscribe, and let's get on with it.
Well, hi there. I'm here today because we actually want to return to a topic that we discussed a little bit in the past. We've already made a video about spider ball pythons in which we talked about really the cool science involved with spider and what's going on there with them genetically and in terms of what sorts of phenotypic attributes are associated with it, and a lot of the pros and cons to owning a spider, why you might not want one yourself. And you can check that video out right here. I strongly recommend it, actually.
There are no pros to owning a spider. This snake, Molasses, he was a rescue. This is my wobble complex ball python, Molasses. Now, I'm not sure if he's a spider, if he has spider in him, because you can see from the side, he looks a lot like a spider, especially when he's kind of curved away from you so that you can see his pattern kind of more stretched out. From above, he doesn't really look like a spider. But when he tries to go climbing in his cage, he will literally, it's like owning a tortoise. He'll try and climb up the walls, fall, and then it'll make like a huge crashing sound. And see, look. You see how I can just keep his head upside down like this? This is not supposed to happen. And you're gonna have to take my word for this, because it's only happened once. But one time I was handling him, and he almost tied himself into a knot, like they do in the cartoons. Oh, he eventually got himself back. He eventually got himself back upright. And now his head's sideways. And part of, I will be charitable here, part of him shaking is my arm, because he's heavy, and the way I'm trying to hold him. But, this is not how ball pythons move. There's no intentionality to his movements. He just kind of drifts. And after this, I will show you Malt, who's my non-wobble ball python. See, look. Look at that! Look at that! Yeah, he'll flop around, flop in his cage, and I'll just hear these crashes in the middle of the night when I'm trying to sleep. And he can eat, but a lot of times, and this comes up later in this video because I've seen this before, his wobble is fairly mild because he can actually strike and get at his food. But a lot of the time, the first time he strikes, he will miss. He will not get at his food. He will miss. And you see right now, he's being normal. Relatively normal. Like, his wobbles, it honestly depends on the day how bad it is. Some days it's worse than others. Sometimes he'll start corkscrewing when I handle him for, like, no good reason. And also, the way he keeps his body so limp like this, I've never seen him fully, tightly curled up. I've never ever seen him, like, fully curled up tightly like a ball python. And now I don't think his only problem is that he has a wobble. I also think he was line bred, which is a nicer fancy term that we reptile keepers like to use for inbred. Because you can see, this lighting is bad, but you can see on, like, the lower third of his body, he has some irregular belly scoots, and his belly is red. That's not anything bad, that's just a sign that he's about to go into shed. But, that is a sign of a line-bred snake, and look. Yep, that's a normal way to move. That is definitely how healthy ball pythons move. And I will show you molt after this. But if I could only keep one of my snakes, honestly, that's difficult because as a content creator, Molasses perfectly embodies everything I advocate against because he was also fed live before I had him. And now his tail is missing. He has a nub. He has a stub where his tail should be. And he's just going upside down on his own now. I didn't even put him upside down that time. There are no pros to owning a spider other than the looks. It's like pugs, basically. Which is interesting because he will make an analogy with dogs later in this video. But it's like with pugs. I don't support the breeding of pugs either because they can't breathe. I am consistent in my principles. Don't breed pugs. Don't breed spiders. Or anything with a wobble. Alright. Now let me show you, if you're not a reptile keeper, how ball pythons are supposed to move. Now I could like stretch him out if I want to by just kind of poking him, and I will show you how I do that. But I intentionally didn't do that until I had him out of his cage to show you how, he's not tightly curled up because he was just soaking in his humidity box. But this is how ball pythons are supposed to curl up. And now if I just kind of, not pry, but just kind of gently get him there. You see how much more attentive he is? How much more intentional his movements are? Like, he sees where he wants to go and he goes there. Even if there's not a specific place he wants to go, he is intentionally moving his head to a place. Molasses doesn't do that. And he does have a scar right here. I have past videos about that. He got his head caught in a vine in his enclosure. It was my bad, but he's fine. Like, you see how he's moving his head so much differently. And he does that. He does jerk like that because he's kind of extra head shy. I've been working on him with that. But, like, even when his neck kind of corkscrews like that, his head is not upside down. He moves intentionally. He never lets himself be just upside down. And the way he grips me, Molasses wasn't gripping me like this. I'm not even gripping him at all. If I just had Molasses balanced on my thumb like this, he would fall so fucking quickly. There are no pros to owning a spider. And I was going to have this later in the video, because I have seen this video, but it was a while ago, and I knew I wanted to make a response to it, but yeah, I was losing my passion with my own channel. My old channel, I didn't know where I wanted to put it, so yeah, look at him. Look how, honestly, like, gracefully he moves compared to Molasses. Look how intentional he is. I can even treadmill him. You can't treadmill Molasses. He just sits there and corkscrews. And you might say, well, oh, Molasses is just a bad spider. He just had bad genes. He's just inbred. But if that gene causes that, because the spider gene is linked to the wobble, you can't breed a spider that doesn't have a wobble, at least to some degree. So if the gene even has the potential to do that, some breeders will not police themselves. We should not be breeding spider ball pythons Because no matter what, there will be breeders who breed the ones with the really bad wobbles. And even when you don't breed the ones with the really bad wobbles, even if you only breed the ones that have more mild conditions, like, even then, you sometimes get these anomalies that will just be bad for seemingly no reason. And look at how cool Malt's pattern is. Now, I don't know exactly what morph he is. The store told me he was a shurg, but that's not actually a gene. Or a super shurg, sorry. But that's not actually a gene. But look how beautiful he is. Look, you can find beautiful, beautiful morphs that don't have wobbles. This isn't the only beautiful morph that there is. Now, there's nothing that looks quite like it. I would say a pinstripe is probably actually a pretty apt replacement, but, you know, there's nothing that looks exactly like a spider, but that shouldn't matter. If that gene harms the snake, we shouldn't breed it. And I'm just trying to show you his head more, because you can see it is a night and day difference between how they move. And, like, even when he's letting his body be less intentional, he's still controlling his movements. All of his movements, he is in control of. Yeah, see, there's the head shyness again. It's actually been a while since I've handled him. He feels so much softer since I've given them humidity boxes. Jesus Christ. Yeah, anyway, back to the video.
And it turned out that, you know, it was probably the most controversial topic that we have discussed since the proper pronunciation of the word Argentine.
Good. Fucking good. That should be controversial. People shouldn't just accept a video that says there's pros to having spider ball pythons. And by the way, I know I said, like, this isn't hate, whatever. I just always get heated whenever I'm passionate about something, so get used to this. This is how I am.
I wasn't even sure I wanted to come back here, but I was...
You made the wrong choice. You shouldn't have.
Really encouraged by the results of a recent poll that we did on our channel that, you know, over 5,000 of you responded to, and I really appreciate that feedback. It really helps us a lot as we try to make important decisions like this one for our channel. We did a video before about the spider ball python, in which I revealed the fact that I have bred spiders in the past and that I'm not particularly bothered by the breeding of spider ball pythons.
Honestly, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, so I can't flatly say don't buy anything from any breeders who breed spiders, because then from the YouTube channels I've seen, you have CS Royals and Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles to buy from, and that's it. Which, by the way, I recommend both of those also. I'm just all the reptile people.
But I did not make any attempt at all to explain why I'm okay with this. And, you know, in fact, I was quite clear about the fact that
we'll see the reason. We'll see the reason at the end of the video. We'll see the reason you're okay with this. We will see the... Oh. There's the... Unless we find a better pros frame than this, there's the thumbnail.
I wasn't going to try to persuade you one way or the other. What I wanted to share with you, and the reason that...
Okay, I'm sorry.
Spider ball pythons. But I did not make any attempt at all to explain why I'm okay with this. And, you know, in fact, I was quite clear about the fact that I wasn't going to try to persuade you one way or the other.
Okay, he won't try to persuade you, I will. Spiders are bad. I will try to persuade you that spiders are bad. You've seen the effects that the spider gene has on a snake. And I will put in extra footage that I've seen from around the internet of spider wobble. It is not cute. If you think it's cute, you're beyond help. That it's just disgusting. Like, you're basically fetishizing snakes with epilepsy at that point. You're basically fetishizing epilepsy. That's like the equivalent of what you're doing.
What I wanted to share with you, and the reason that we even made a video about spider ball pythons, is just because I wanted to talk to you about the cool science related to spider ball python. And
Alright, let's be charitable, I can actually believe that, at least to a degree. He's made other videos just talking about like genetics of other things, so I can actually believe that. I will give him that.
I wanted to give you kind of the pros and cons of spiders so that you could make an informed decision as...
There are no pros. The only pro is that they're beautiful. Or at least their scales are beautiful. Because what is not beautiful is the way that they move. The way that malt moves is beautiful, is graceful, has that nice, like, for lack of a better word, just like slow, intentional. It is beautiful. So while the scale pattern is beautiful, the way that they move is not. And I'm not just saying that in a way of like, they're beautiful on the outside, but like the fact that their bred is, ugly on the inside. I'm not even saying like that and being pretentious. I'm literally saying that the way that they move is not beautiful. It just looks weird how they corkscrew around. Alright, I'm sorry. We're 1:44. We're a minute and 44 seconds in. I've already cut out so much shit. Probably. We need to move on.
As to whether or not you should get one yourself. Sort of like we do for all the animals that we cover on Clint's Reptiles. In our poll, we discovered that 74% of you disagree with my position on the breeding of spider ball.
One part of me wants to say good, the other part wants to say that's not enough. And I don't know which I more agree with.
Pythons, and only 18% express that they agree with my position. And this honestly didn't surprise me at all, given what I've seen on social media over the last few.
Maybe if you're not surprised that the majority of your audience disagrees with your morality, when you're also saying, like, I'm not trying to persuade you either way, if you don't have, like, a strong conviction about that, maybe you're wrong. Maybe you're the one that's wrong. Like, I don't want to say this as, like, if someone is, like, progressive and has a bunch of anti-SJWs in their audience, then they're wrong. No. Like, because if you have, like, strong convictions about your progressive ideas, that's what I'm saying. Oh, shit. Sorry, I'm using the mouse pad. If you have, like, progressive ideals, like, that's what I'm saying about, like, if you have strong convictions. But it's like, you better make a damn good case if you disagree with 74% of your own audience from your own community. Like...
Really, really appreciated, though, was that of the people that said that they disagree with my position, 95% said that they would like to hear why I feel the way that I do about the breeding of spider ball pythons.
Well, yeah. Yeah, if someone holds a contentious position, most people want to know why. Like, if say, hypothetically, someone was like, yeah, I think that slavery, not in, like, a consensual, like, kink context, but just straight, like, ancient slavery should be legal. If someone's poor enough, they should just, do indentured servitude. If someone said some shit like that, most people would want to fucking know why. Just a jump cut there, because my fucking mom just opens my door to tell me that she's going somewhere. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Alright, I'm fucking bitter about that now. I'm gonna be even angrier.
I think that is super cool. Stinking
No,
rat.
it's not. That's just how people work. When you hear an immoral position, you want to fucking know why. Like, you want to pick apart. Like, a lot of people, for example, had a true crime phase. Because you want to, like, pick apart, you know, these murderers and know why. That's just how people work. Especially as someone who is, like, fascinated by psychology. I do want to know why, because I want to, like, pick apart why you're like this. That's actually what got me into leftism in the first place, was because people were talking about, I think it was, like, one of the first videos I saw was the alt-right playbook, how to radicalize a normie. You know, and just, like, seeing the psychology behind how someone becomes, alt-right, you know, how someone holds those evil positions. You want to pick apart and know why someone holds a position that you think is immoral. And I would keep seeing, like, these channels, Vosh. The thing that really got me into, like, BreadTube was, Vosh talking about, it was his video, "We knew Caitlyn Bennett was bad, but a Nazi." That was the first video of his that I saw, and, you know, that I didn't just immediately click off because I was in my anti-SJW phase. That is what, like, got me into, like, leftism, was seeing these people talking about, you know, fascists, because, you know, I was fascinated by that psychology. So, if someone has an immoral position, you want to know why. That's not some profound thing.
If you will. We live in a world right now, honestly, where people are so quick to demonize people that disagree with them.
Okay. I was gonna show this in the beginning, and I forgot to. Here's the thumbnail. Unpopular opinion for ahead. Not recommended for closed minds. These are the exact talking points used by fascists. And I'm not calling, Clint, if you're watching this, I am not calling you a fascist. I know you're not. Okay? That is not at all what I'm saying. But it's like the exact tactic used is to say, like, this is just my opinion. You know, why are you demonizing me for my opinion? We just disagree. It's just isn't everyone just entitled to their own opinions? Let's just have opinions, freedom of speech. Here's the thing. Some opinions are morally not okay to hold because they lead to harm. For example, racism. If you think that, like, black people are subhuman, that is morally a not okay thing to do, is to have that belief. Because that will lead to harm. That will most likely, if that idea is not challenged, will lead to harm. Because if people are just allowed to be racist, then racism gets perpetuated. This is the paradox of tolerance. We cannot tolerate intolerant opinions. And I don't think that, you know, being okay with spider ball pythons is necessarily intolerant. But I do think that it is an opinion that is not okay to hold because it does lead to harm. It leads to the breeding of these things.
And they make virtually no effort to understand where people with opposing views are coming from.
I don't want to understand where fascists are coming from.
Are open-minded enough to hear me out about this. That is so cool. In my opinion, it's always okay to disagree so long as you understand both sides.
What if I disagree that the Holocaust happened? Is that okay? No? It's not always, it's most of the time it's okay to disagree. And I mainly hold that opinion, for media. Like, if saying like, I liked book X, I didn't like book X, you know, shit like that where it is a matter of opinion. But when it comes to morality, this whole civility politics thing, I'm sorry I keep interjecting, but he keeps saying so many things, so many of these phrases that I see used by, like, anti-SJWs and shit. And that immediately make my mind go into nope mode. So hopefully he stops saying these buzzwords soon, because this video is probably way too long.
Of the argument. I think, you know, in the case of breeding spider ball pythons, for example, I think we all have our hearts in the right place. And sometimes... You might. I can't read your mind. I think you probably don't, for reasons that we'll get into at the end. But a lot of fucking people certainly fucking don't. I will again show you some more clips of severe spider wobble, and I want you to tell me that the people who bred those had their hearts in the right place. When we are open-minded enough to actually have a conversation and hear each other out, we discover that we don't really disagree at all. And honestly, you know, if it weren't for this poll, I wouldn't be making this video at all. So I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate you. I'd
like to say thank you too, because responding to you gives me content.
I think that this is something that is a little bit unusual in the world today, and I'm grateful to see it here. So to begin, I'm a scientist. One thing that I've learned as a scientist is that the evidence doesn't always support what is intuitively true or what feels right.
The way he said that didn't sit right with me. Let's just let him finish that point.
Easily persuaded by evidence and not easily persuaded by emotional appeals. In fact,
Okay, he was talking about himself. I thought he was just speaking generally. That's probably not true, just psychologically speaking. And when most people, when they say that, are usually just saying some kind of edgy shit and not being empathetic. Like, for example, with trans people, like, oh, I'm just persuaded by biology, and the biology says that there's only two genders, even though it fucking doesn't. I'm just not convinced by your feelings that you are the gender you identify as. And also, like, evidence can be valid and also an emotional appeal. Like, for example, this is evidence why you shouldn't buy spider ball pythons. Why you shouldn't breed them, because it can lead to this. Like, this is valid evidence, because this can happen, but it's also an emotional appeal. I don't know, when people say that, like, that they put facts over feelings, that just does not sit right with me. Also, wait. You're the one using emotional appeals here, because you're the one saying that we should all just be polite and hear each other out. You're the one saying that. Hold up. You're the one doing the emotional appeal.
In fact, if the only argument that you can make is an emotional appeal...
Look at its head's upside down. Also, no. Then morality is irrelevant. Okay. If you say that any argument that relies on emotional appeal is invalid, then morality just doesn't exist. Because morality, as most people see it, is with respect to, like, happiness. Like, is with respect. Like, we don't want things to suffer. That's what morality is to most people. So if you say that you can't make emotional appeals to make an argument, then we just can't talk about morality. No, what? I'm sorry, I said oh, I'm trying to be charitable here. This video is much worse than I remembered it. This video is so much worse than I remembered it. Oh my god. Also, its head's upside down. It's not supposed to be like that.
I think there's a pretty good chance you're not on the side of truth.
Are you a sociopath? Because all morality is based on emotional appeals. All of it. At least on, the core. Because most people think of morality with respect to suffering. So, I guess morality just is irrelevant. No one with morals is correct, I guess. No one with morals is correct. And I don't think that's what he, meant to say. I really don't think that. But if you actually, look at the argument, if you actually, break down what he's saying like I am, that's what it comes down to, ultimately. So, what the hell?
There are many poor arguments that can be made against breeding spider ball pythons.
There's poor arguments in favor of everything. That's not a point. There's poor arguments in favor of literally everything. That doesn't mean there's not good arguments. Do you have a good argument for breeding spider ball pythons? Because I have an argument against breeding them, which is that if you breed something that has this neurological condition that lowers its quality of life beyond, a normal captive ball python, you shouldn't breed that, because then you're just causing unnecessary suffering to that animal when you could have bred something else that's equally as beautiful, if not looking the same. There's also poor arguments in favor. There are so many poor arguments in favor of breeding spider ball pythons, dude. I saw it in Go Herping's video from 2 years ago, which was a response to Brian Parchek. Someone said should we just not allow autistic people to breed then? Which is poor on many levels, because snakes don't care if they breed. They don't get any fulfillment out of egg making. They leave their nest as soon as their eggs are laid. They don't care if they breed or not. And what Ryan Barczyk said was they're gonna ban the spiders, and then they're gonna ban the piebalds and the pinstripes. No, we're not. We're just gonna ban the wobble complex morphs. First they came for the spiders, and I didn't do anything, as I did not breed spiders. And then they came for the super cinnamons, and I did not do anything, as I did not breed super cinnamons. And then they went for the rest of the wobble complex morphs, and again I didn't do anything. And then they stopped, because that's all they cared about. There are poor arguments in favor of everything. That's not an argument against... There being poor arguments in favor of something is not an argument against that thing. There are poor arguments in favor of literally everything, whether that's right or wrong. That's not an actual point.
I'm not going to address those. They're just bad arguments. But there is...
Okay, bro. Alright. I'll address bad arguments. What are you scared, bro? You scared? You mad, bro?
Also a very good argument to be made against breeding spider ball pythons. First,
alright, let's see if you straw man.
Is that all spider ball pythons everywhere have some degree of a neurological defect that alters their behavior. Second, in some cases, that neurological defect can become debilitatingly severe. And
I mean, there's always some level of debilitation if you can't control your movement. I'm just nitpicking at this point. He's
third, choosing color or behavior over the health of the animal is morally wrong. And I think that this is a completely valid case because most of these things are true. And so now,
are you seriously gonna make the morality a subjective argument? Are you fucking serious? You can't argue with my morals because morality is ultimately subjective and nothing means anything. Oh my god. Like I said, it's been a while since I've seen this video. He might not, but Jesus Christ.
I'd like to tell you a story. When I was a little kid...
Oh! I am very persuaded by facts and logic and not by emotional appeals. Let me give you an anecdote from when I was a wee lad. In favor of my argument. Okay, bro.
My favorite story in the world was the Three Little Pigs. I mean, I'm not talking like a little kid, I'm talking like a toddler. I would stand up in my crib and I'd yell, "Pigs!" for my parents to play.
No emotional appeal. Absolutely none. This man makes no emotional appeals ever.
The audio tape, because I'm old. The audio tape of the Three Little Pigs story, it was my favorite and I wanted to hear it all the time. As a result, I became paralyzingly afraid of the big bad wolf. This is Theo.
No emotional appeals.
He's my dog, and he is a little bad wolf.
You're literally showing us a cute puppy. What the fuck are you talking about with this anti-emotional appeal ass bullshit? This is so much. I was so nervous to make this video because, like, what if he actually makes like a good point, you know? And I'm just, you know, I'm not, you know, as experienced in my rhetoric skills as someone like Vosh, so I just kind of stumble and I'm stupid and whatever. Bro, what? You're literally just showing us a puppy. You're the one saying we're emotionally appealing? Oh my god, dude.
In fact, he's a terrible wolf. He's defective in oh so many ways, and he wouldn't last a day in the wild.
Okay, and if your dog is defective, I mean, you're not saying how. Like, if he's... So, okay, here's the thing. I don't think we should ban piebalds. But piebalds wouldn't survive a day in the wild because their bright white, contrasting with their other colors, would get them easily spotted by predators. I don't think they're defective. So if you're not going to tell me how he's defective, I don't know if it actually lowers his quality of life. But if it does, I say don't breed him. Simple as that. I'm not saying we shouldn't rescue snakes. I have a rescued maybe spider, but definitely has a wobble. I didn't purchase it. And I'm not going to breed him. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't because sperm plugs are located in the tail if he's a male, so... But still, I don't think we should breed pugs either. I don't think we should breed most purebred dogs, actually, because they all have problems because they're so goddamn inbred. You think I'm not going to be consistent? Fuck you. Fuck you. You trying to call me out on my hypocrisy? I'm not hypocritical. I'm not hypocritical. I actually follow through with my principles.
Just want to play with things that he should eat and also with things that would probably eat him. If you notice, like most domestic dogs, he's got floppy ears. And he's got a neurological...
Oh, this is the part I remember. Okay, no. Alright, I already... Literally, like, the many months ago that I watched this, I had this response prepared. Oh, well, let's let him finish.
Disorder that is associated with those floppy ears. This neurological disorder, which causes him to be super laid back and happy-go-lucky, is either linked or pleiotropically related to the floppy ears.
There is a difference between having floppy ears, which cause you to be more laid back and chill, and basically having seizures. And constantly not being in control of your movement. Those are not on the same fucking scale. This is such a dishonest argument. Oh, technically, dogs being laid back is a neurological disorder. It doesn't lower their quality of life. Having a wobble does.
You can't have one without the other. In fact, when they tried to breed domestic foxes for calmer behavior, they ended up getting floppy ears, just like our domestic wolf.
Cool. My point still stands. Being calm doesn't lower your quality of life. Actually, it would probably increase your quality of life because you're not so stressed out all the time. This isn't a valid argument because this isn't a valid analogy. Because these two things are not at all on the same scale. There's a difference between a change in general mood and behavior and a loss of control of your muscles. This is stupid. This is not a valid argument.
Spider ball pythons also have a mutation that causes both a...
Oh my god, look how its head was moving! This is a display one, by the way. This is like he bred this to not be as bad. If he did breed this. This is when he is showing off to the world to show that spider ball pythons aren't that bad and its head is fucking upside down.
Phenotypic, well, a coloration alteration, and a behavioral defect, just like my dog. And
no, not just like your dog. These things are not analogous. Because one is still in control of their body, and the other is not.
And this gets us to a really important question, which is, what is a defect? A defect is
It lowers their quality of life. A defect is something that lowers their quality of life, at least for this argument. If you want to bring up some other definition of a defect, I don't care, because for the sake of argument right now, I am defining a defect as something that lowers your quality of life. Being more laid back does not lower your quality of life. If anything, it would increase it because you're not as stressed. Losing control of your head. And you say this too, this is your catchphrase. When you're a noodle with a head, the world is a scary place. Well, imagine being a noodle that's not in control of your head. That doesn't keep your head right side up. That doesn't know up from down. Sometimes that can't even eat and has to get euthanized. Dogs that are laid back are not defective. Spider ball pythons are. Pugs are. Not all dogs with floppy ears. Pugs are defective. Don't breed pugs. They can't fucking breathe.
Imperfection or something that alters the intended function. And
that's not. Completely gets rid of the connotation of the word defect, which is negative. It has a negative connotation. And even if I do take that definition, there are good defects and there are bad defects. Spider ball python has a bad defect. Dogs with floppy ears have a good defect. Pugs have a bad defect. There, I just use your own definition.
And this leads us to another really important question, which is, what does a perfect ball python look like? And what is...
Malt. Perfect ball python looks like malt. Next question. Okay, even if that joke aside, a perfect ball python is not the goal. A normal ball python is.
A teleological argument in that it assumes that there is a perfect...
No, it's not. No, the fuck it's not. There is no perfect ball python, but there are better ball pythons and worse ball pythons, and we should not breed the worst ball pythons.
intended form of a ball python? This is a wild type of a...
No, oh my god, no! That's not the point. The point is that it lowers their quality of life. It doesn't, this shit you're saying of like, what's a perfect ball python? What's this esoteric concept? Doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. Because having the spider gene and this wobble lowers the quality of life of the animal. If you don't care, like, I could turn this argument against you. What is perfect ball python husbandry? There is no one perfect setup for a ball python. I keep mine in a 20-gallon with aspen and only one hide and a tiny water bowl. There is no perfect setup for a ball python. This is just fine. What is the perfect setup for a ball python? Is this a defective setup? How do we define a defective setup? How do we define incorrect husbandry? There is no one perfect cage. Every keeper is different. That's why my ball python, who is kept on aspen in a 20-gallon enclosure with a tiny water bowl and only one fucking hide, is fine. And I should just keep him in there. Because there is no one perfect setup.
A peppered moth, which is a pretty beautiful little moth, right? And this is a mutant peppered moth. Now the question is, which one is perfect?
Neither of them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking matter. Because I've done this in my fucking 8th grade biology class. That mutant, quote unquote, happened naturally. No human fucking bred it. So even if I take your point of like, I just think that the mutant ball python is bad because it's a mutant and blah blah blah, this analogy still wouldn't apply because the peppered moths that camouflaged better, they evolved naturally because of natural selection. No human did that. So you can't impugn any person because that's just how it happened. Well, actually you can. You can impugn the people who polluted it in the first place and made that mutant be able to camouflage better. But the point isn't that the mutant camouflaged better. The point is the pollution. The point is the pollution. And also, this doesn't apply because their coloration doesn't lower their quality of life. This isn't about some esoteric concept of a defect. This is about quality of life.
And which one's defective? After the start of the
fucking neither of them! And even if one was, it doesn't matter because they were breeding naturally. Right, if he just goes on with this point and doesn't bring anything new, I'm just going to cut this out of the video. The perfect one, which I explained why that's not analogous.
Not convinced that nature makes perfect organisms. Which one is defective is...
It's not about defect, it's about quality of a life.
Hugely context dependent. This is a wild type ball python. Wild type for both ball pythons and really in any species that you would find is the suite of alleles that have been the most successful in the wild environment. So that is the context in which the wild type ball python has been historically the most successful coloration and temperament. This snake would stand out like a sore thumb in Africa, and he would like...
Yeah, so don't release it. Don't release any pet. But in captivity, it doesn't lower their quality of life. I'm probably going to cut a bunch of this shit out because he just keeps making analogies of like, well, this mutation is different and wouldn't survive in the wild, so therefore why don't we ban it? Because it's not in the wild, it's in captivity, and it has the same quality of life as a normal. And this isn't about the esoteric concept of a defect. I'm like a fucking broken record here. Quality of life. That's what this is about. Not some philosophical concept of what a defect is. This is, you're being so dishonest. You're being so dishonest. I like your series on the best pet, but you're being so dishonest, man. You're being so dishonest.
Likely die long before he would ever get a chance to pass on his genes. Horse.
He's not in the wild then. Because he's made for captivity. He was bred in captivity, he is in captivity, and in captivity
environment in which they're found. So now our big question is, how do spider ball pythons do in the captive environment?
Okay, I cut a bunch out because he just kept saying, like, basically just like, you know, my pets are alive because they're in captivity and not the wild. Yes, dipshit, but they have good quality of lives. As your dog has the same quality of life as any other dog except for a pug, because pugs have objectively worse quality of life. Don't breed pugs. This isn't about defect, it's about quality of life. So now it looks like he might address that. He might, let's cross our fingers.
Get my spider back for this. When it comes to survival and reproduction, which is really the way that you measure success of...
In the wild, yes. Not in captivity.
Organisms generally. In captivity, spider ball pythons they do great. That's...
No! No, the fuck they don't! I'm gonna play the clips again. So many of them have to be fucking euthanized because they straight up can't eat or can't move around their enclosure to fucking thermoregulate. You're just lying! You're lying! What a fucking liar, dude! What a fucking Weasley little liar, dude! What a fucking Weasley little liar, dude! Holy shit, dude! Holy fucking shit, dude! Literally lying! Still lying to his audience! Can someone please at least enlighten Clint that he's literally lying to his audience? Holy shit, dude! They don't typically do great in captivity! No, they don't!
How we went from having just a few imported spider ball pythons to thousands and thousands of...
Oh, trust me, we'll get to how that happened. Trust me, we'll get to how that happened.
Spider ball pythons in captivity. It's because they do really well in captivity. But there is a really important question, and that is...
They don't.
Are they suffering?
Yes. Look at this footage and tell me this snake is not suffering. Like, I get, like, oh, don't anthropomorphize, you're just making an emotional appeal. If you cannot eat, if you are a cold-blooded animal and can't thermoregulate, you are suffering. Because you can't get in a comfortable temperature. And starving to death is objectively one of the most painful ways to die. So, yes. My ball python is suffering when he is trying to climb in his enclosure up the walls and he flops down. He literally flops down to the bottom and like makes like a noise because he cannot control his movements. It can't be fun just falling like that. He is suffering and he's in the exact same setup almost as Malt. And Malt doesn't do that. So it's not the setup.
You know, just because they survive and reproduce, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not suffering. And if they are suffering, that could be a complete deal breaker. So how do we determine if they are suffering or not? One way would be to put yourself in their shoes. The problem is that you would hate to have almost no legs, live in a hole, and eat rats.
I addressed this point. Like, if you're a cold-blooded animal and you can't thermoregulate, you either freeze to death or overheat, and starving to death is literally one of the most painful ways to die. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't have to anthropomorphize to say that constantly falling down over and over and having your home fucking shake like it's an earthquake from the impact just because you're trying to fucking explore your cage, that's not fun. Like, the impact of falling isn't fun. I don't have to anthropomorphize to say that. It's just objectively not.
They can't even wear shoes. So this isn't a good way to determine.
You can't, well, okay. Yes and no. Yes, but you're being dishonest. You can look at something and assess whether it's suffering without putting it yourself in their shoes. Like, if you see like if an animal can't move properly, and it needs to thermoregulate, and so it can't be at a comfortable temperature, it's reasonable to assume it's not comfortable. If an animal that hates having its belly exposed, like naturally, like that stresses them out because they're head shy, just constantly has its head upside down, then that animal is probably stressed out and suffering. You can evaluate whether or not an animal is suffering just by looking at it without anthropomorphizing.
If they're suffering or not. You would be suffering if you were a ball python, but that doesn't mean that they are. The next way would be to look...
No, I wouldn't, because I'd have a ball python brain.
for typical signs of stress for a snake. Stressed snakes tend to exhibit a few behaviors that are very indicative of a stressed snake. One thing is they tend to be very restless. They also tend to refrain.
Yeah. From all of the footage I've seen of spider ball pythons, they're never just sitting comfortably. They're always moving. Their head is always corkscrewing. So, yeah, I'd say yeah.
Refrain from activities like feeding and breeding, and they will often regurgitate meals because they are stressed. And then, the worst thing that can happen is that they will die prematurely as a result of consistent stress. Are there some stressed spider ball pythons out there?
You only addressed two ways, and you presented them both dishonestly. Like, you can interpret, this snake has a white belly that if exposed in the wild would kill it, so it probably doesn't like to be upside down. But they're upside down all the time. And also, those are the most extreme circumstances of a snake being stressed. Like, I've seen snakes, who have just moved into a new enclosure, eat. I'm sure that's probably stressful for them. So, you don't have to be extremely stressed to the point of death in order to be suffering from stress.
Yes, absolutely there are, for sure. Are there some stressed non-spider ball pythons out there? Yes.
No one is saying that there aren't stressed non-spiders. What we're saying is that not being in control of your body intrinsically lowers your quality of life, because when you're a noodle with a head, the world is a scary place.
There are also stressed non-spider ball pythons. Are spider ball pythons more likely to be stressed than are non-spider ball pythons? This is an important question. And as far as I can tell from all the data I've observed, they're not.
But even if it doesn't stress them out to have that wobble, it can still, because that's just what they've been used to their whole life, they can still have a worse life than a non-spider ball python. Like, for example, so say that there's two islands, and one of them has a bunch of fruit trees, a bunch of fish, a bunch of fresh water, and someone has grown up on that island their entire life. And the other island has enough to survive, but it doesn't really have any variety. It doesn't really have any fish coming to it. It's not like, it doesn't have a nice view. It's a lot smaller. There's not as much places to explore. And another person grows up on that island. That person, because they still have all they need to survive, there's just less variety and less of it. The person on the smaller island cannot be more stressed than the person on the bigger island, but still have a worse quality of life. Just because that's what they've been used to all their life doesn't mean it doesn't lower their quality of life.
They're not any more likely to be stressed than our other ball pythons. My spider ball pythons are not any more restless than are my other snakes. I'm
gonna press X to doubt on that one, but I'm not gonna for sure say that that's a lie. I will press X to doubt because molasses is definitely more restless than malt, but I'm not gonna say a hard, definitely a lie.
Just took in a few as a rehoming, and so I actually have a number of spiders, including the clutch that I produced last year, and I've got a few adults and then those that I took in, and none of them are exhibiting restlessness any more so than are any other ball pythons in my collection.
Yeah, but they are exhibiting having their head being upside down. That's for fucking sure.
Spider ball pythons are good breeders, and they're notoriously good feeders.
Doesn't matter if they have a strong feeding response if they can't actually get at their thing that they're striking. Also, people who feed spiders live. Like, are you just trying to kill your snake? Like, if you want to just euthanize the spider, just get it euthanized. Like, if it already doesn't have the coordination to strike at a frozen thawed thing, it's gonna get chewed the fuck up by a live thing. Like, I think he advocates for frozen thawed, so that is actually a point in his favor. But
at least, from the reports that I've seen, many people seem to perceive them as being better feeders than our other ball pythons. And I don't think we have enough official data to conclude one way or another, but there definitely seems to be no sign that they feed worse than do other ball pythons. Potentially they feed much, much better. I've never heard of spider ball pythons having issues with regurgitation. I've never had a spider ball python regurgitate. I know of no...
Cool. They still probably have a worse quality of life. Just because you grew up on the worst island and that's the only thing you're used to, and so it doesn't stress you out, that doesn't mean that the person on the bigger island doesn't have a better quality of life than you.
Evidence that spider ball pythons die prematurely, though homozygotes will. So you don't want to breed spider to spider because they won't get out of the egg. But when it comes to the heteros...
If your morph causes enough damage to the point where if it is homozygous, you won't make it out of the egg, maybe throw the whole morph out. Maybe it's just not worth it.
Zygous spiders, which is every spider you've ever seen. I've seen no evidence that they die prematurely. And this is actually an interesting thing because I've heard
unless they're euthanized because they can't eat.
A lot of people say that, the problem with spider is that they're inbred. And,
I mean, my snake is inbred, but that's just another thing. Like, I did point that out, but that wasn't, why he did that. I didn't make this argument, so if the shoe doesn't fit, don't wear it. I'm not going to address this.
But I wouldn't want to be a ball python at all. There's no evidence that I've seen that spider ball pythons are stressed or are suffering in any way. Frankly...
If you don't think the snake is suffering, please get help. Please get help if you don't think the snake is suffering.
Most of them seem to do better in captivity than do other ball pythons, at least if it turns out to be true that they really are better feeders than our other ball pythons.
No. Eating is not the only measure of health and quality of life.
And I have seen this from a lot of sources with big sample sizes. I just don't know if we have enough data to conclude that for sure. But there certainly are some examples of spider ball pythons that exhibit a truly debilitating wobble. And a really important question is...
Yeah, and you cannot ever breed spiders in a way that you can make sure won't make that. And you could make this argument back on me and say you couldn't breed anything because everything can have a mutation that's debilitating. Anything can have a mutation that's debilitating. But with the spider gene, it is connected to the gene. So it is a lot more likely that you're going to have a bad one rather than just something you breed has a mutation that lowers its life.
Why? The answer is we don't know. Every example of a spider ball python with a really bad wobble that I've seen.
The answer why we don't know. Okay. So he's saying we don't know why some spider ball pythons are bad. So if we can't take preventative measures, why breed them at all?
Including the one that I've seen personally, they were all rescue snakes taken in from unknown circumstances.
Yeah, so was mine. I mean, okay.
Lots of rescue snakes, including snakes that have none of the genetic markers that would indicate that they should have wobble, exhibit symptoms sort of like wobble. It seems possible.
That's a disingenuous argument at best, because if only a few rescue snakes have that symptom that seems like a wobble that's just from husbandry, but all spiders have at least some of that, then it's not worth breeding them in the first place. If all spiders have a higher likelihood of getting a really bad wobble, then that lowers their quality of life. And even yours with a fairly mild wobble it still isn't moving correctly. It still is having a lower quality of life.
Possible that spider is a minimally different condition, generally speaking, that can be exacerbated by poor care. But new evidence could absolutely change my mind about that. People talk about them changing from not having a severe wobble to having a severe wobble, but as I mentioned in our last video, I've actually seen no evidence of that other than just people saying that it can happen. Are spiders the same as other ball pythons? No, they're not.
Okay, I thought he was going to say yes.
They're not. Would I recommend them to somebody?
No. Don't get a spider. If you're looking for something that looks like a spider, get a pinstripe. That's the closest thing I've seen. It's not wobble complex. Get a pinstripe.
Who was aware of the wobble and ready for their first snake?
Okay, yeah, here's where I will actually give him charitability. He's not just doing the free market shit that Brian Barczyk did of like, let us regulate ourselves. You know, he is saying that people should be informed. So I will give him credit for that.
Yeah, I totally would. Totally would. Spider ball pythons do better in captivity than almost any species of snake we try to keep.
That's not just spiders. That's all ball pythons. All ball pythons do better in captivity than almost any other species of snake.
The only reason to get a snake like, say, a Brazilian rainbow boa is because you like the behavior and the coloration of a Brazilian rainbow boa better than you like the behavior and coloration of something like a ball python.
Okay, no, that's a disingenuous argument. Any species, okay, well, not any species. A lot of species can thrive in captivity. It's just that ball pythons are hardier. They can tolerate mistakes better. If you do it correctly, if you keep a Brazilian rainbow boa correctly, it can have the same quality of life as a normal ball python. Spiders won't, because they're not in control of their fucking body.
Brazilian rainbow boas, as it turns out, are much less likely to thrive and survive in captivity than...
Even if that's true, if you are an experienced keeper, you know, if you have the means to do that, to keep a Brazilian rainbow boa correctly, like most snakes that don't thrive in captivity, except for like the impossible to keep snakes like dragon snakes or whatever, is because it's an inexperienced keeper or just someone who, you know, isn't sure what they're doing. This isn't, you know, down to some esoteric concept of defect. This is just hardiness. Brazilian rainbow boas are just less hardy than ball pythons. So if you take care of them correctly, you know, if you are an experienced keeper and take care of them correctly, then they will still have the same quality of life in captivity as a ball python. They absolutely can, as long as it's an experienced keeper keeping them correctly.
Are ball pythons, including spider ball pythons. Should an informed and prepared keeper be allowed to keep a Brazilian rainbow boa?
Yes. Because this is a disingenuous argument.
Yeah, I think so, absolutely. Why not? Should breeders of spider ball pythons do more to inform their customers about wobble?
Alright, here's where he gets charitability.
I think so, absolutely. And hopefully...
Yeah, yay, charitability from me. You get... I think that spider ball python breeders should just stop, because fuck capitalism. This is... Alright, I definitely can't put the why it's not crony capitalism or corporatism. It is capitalism in this video because holy shit, it's so long. I'm not even keeping track of the timer, but oh my god. I feel bad for anyone who clicks on this. Like, I think that they should stop. Like, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, but there are other morphs, you know? And I'm gonna see if, before I get to my final point about why I think he really doesn't have a problem with spider ball pythons, I'll let him finish. I'll see if there's anything else juicy in this video.
Videos like a lot of people compare spider ball pythons to human conditions such as autism, and you know, often it's done in really poor taste. And to be perfectly frank, wobble isn't autism. But in
oh no, he's saying that like that we're comparing, that people arguing against it is comparing it to autism. I did compare it to epilepsy because that it is similar to that. You and saying that, you know, if you think wobble is cute, that is essentially the same thing as fetishizing seizures. But I do think that comparing wobble to autism is dumb. It's a dumb thing to do. It's its own condition. You know, it's not really similar to any human conditions, but it does lower the quality of life. Autism, actually, you can be perfectly functional with autism and live a good life. With wobble, you cannot, as a snake. So
in some ways, it's not a bad comparison. People with autism, and I have a lot of friends.
No, it is a bad comparison. What? No, it is a bad comparison. What are you doing?
That have autism, they're wired a little bit differently than are people without autism.
No, oh my god, this is so disingenuous.
But every person I know with autism has like a mental superpower.
Do I even have to explain why this is dumb? Do I really have to? Spider ball pythons don't have superpowers. Spider ball pythons are not Rain Man. Stop.
Without fail, everybody I know with autism can do things. They can remember things. They can see patterns, and they just have mental abilities that...
This is so... Okay, oh my god. This is such cringe normie shit. This is such cringe normie shit. This is such cringe normie shit. I think the points are done. I'm just gonna end the video here. And here's the real reason. Oh, pfft, there's the thumbnail. Ha! Now, here's the real reason why he doesn't have a problem with spider ball pythons. And there's an old saying, if you want to know who is lying, follow the money. So if I go to Morph Market, I find spider. Let's see how much these are going for. Also, in ball pythons, they have the spider as the representation, so we know these are popular. Okay, let's sort by most expensive. $7,250, $7,000, $6,000, $5,550, $5,000, $5,500, $5,000. Look at these prices. Look at these prices. Look at them. I see no reason to downplay. Oh, look, you can even see how weird this one's moving. I see no reason to downplay the effects that Wobble Gene has. I see no incentive. I see no incentive to lie about Spider Gene at all and downplay its effects. And let's be charitable here. Let's see another morph. Here's one I brought up. Morph that I brought up. Let's look at Pinstripe. Okay, I was like, Pinstripe's a common morph. Why is there only this? But I was looking at the one below it. Okay. Let's look at Pinstripe. Let's look at the prices for Pinstripe. So, and a lot of these are probably going to be Pinstripe with Spider. So, yep. Spinner is Pinstripe Spider. See, all of the ones, this is Spider, this has Spider. Oh, we found one that doesn't look like it has Spider that's as expensive as the Spiders. Just get a Pinstripe. They're less expensive anyway, bro. Look how cool these look. Look. Get a Pinstripe. Also, this isn't an endorsement of Morph Market. This is not at all, but this is just, you know, kind of a default place. So, in conclusion, don't buy spiders. Don't buy spider ball pythons. And look out for my next video, which is how the reptile community demonstrates that the problem is not crony capitalism or corporatism, it is just capitalism. Armadillo out.